Coach Elijah Brooks lived for Friday nights. The stadium lights, the roar of the crowd, the feel of turf under his feet. It all reminded him why he'd chosen to teach instead of chasing a lucrative college coaching job. Eastwood High wasn't prestigious, and the football field was more dirt than grass. But these boys, his boys, needed him more than any NCAA program ever could. They were mostly black and brown, growing up in a town where the factories had closed and hope was a rare currency. Elijah was more than a coach. He was a mentor, a therapist, a sometimes surrogate parent. And this year, they were winning, 9-0 going into the playoffs. No Eastwood team had done that in over 2 decades. After a thrilling win over their rivals, Coach Brooks knelt beside the team huddle, voice low but firm. "You earned this," he said. "Every sprint, every block, every bruise, it got you here, and nobody can take that from you." The boys roared in celebration. Later that night, Elijah sat alone in his office, scrolling through news on his cracked phone. Another police shooting. Another unarmed black teen. This one just 2 counties over. The boy's name was Jamal Rivers, 17, shot during a traffic stop. Elijah clenched his jaw. He thought of his players, many of them the same age. He thought of their futures, their vulnerability. He closed the news app and opened Twitter. After a few seconds of hesitation, he typed, "My boys shouldn't have to fear the cops more than the other team. Justice for Jamal. #BLM. He hit send. He didn't know it yet, but that tweet would cost him everything. By Monday morning, the tweet had reached over 20,000 retweets. Students reposted it. Alumni praised it. Parents nodded silently as they read it over coffee. But not everyone approved. Principal Karen Whitmore stood in front of her office window, arms folded tightly. "This is not what we need right now," she muttered, staring at the glowing screen on her laptop. Her phone buzzed with messages from the district superintendent, from donors, from board members. Some were outraged. Others were simply concerned. Coach Brooks arrived on campus as usual, wearing his Eastwood hoodie, unaware of the storm building around him. In the teacher's lounge, conversation stopped when he walked in. A few nodded. 1 or 2 smiled. Most avoided eye contact. At lunch, he was called to the principal's office. "We appreciate your passion," Principal Whitmore began, her tone clipped and rehearsed. "But the school district has a clear policy on political speech from staff, especially online." Elijah blinked. "So calling for justice is political now?" "We just don't want to be divisive." He left the meeting with a written warning and an unspoken message: stay quiet. That evening, he found a handwritten note slipped under his office door. "Thank you for standing up. We needed to know someone sees us. #22. He didn't recognize the handwriting, but he knew the number. #22 was Marcus Hayes, a shy junior cornerback who rarely spoke but never missed a tackle. The note stayed in Elijah's pocket for weeks. The air in Eastwood High had changed. Students whispered in clusters, phones half hidden under desks, screens glowing with comments and reposts of Coach Brooks' tweet. The local news had picked up the story. The headline was cautious but clear. "High school coach enters political firestorm after BLM tweet." At first, it was only murmurs. A few parents complained at a school board meeting. An anonymous email accused the coach of promoting division. The school superintendent issued a bland statement about the importance of unity. But within days, it became louder. A conservative watchdog blog ran a segment. Coach or activist? Eastwood's Elijah Brooks puts agenda over athletics. Soon after, 2 assistant coaches resigned. The athletic director began fielding calls from worried sponsors. College scouts who had planned to visit Eastwood postponed indefinitely. Practice became tense. Some players were quiet. Others stood closer to Elijah, more protective than before. In the teacher's lounge, Mrs. Gilroy, the chemistry teacher, said it quietly. They want to make an example of him. By Friday, a new policy memo was circulated among staff. All extracurricular leaders must refrain from social media commentary that could be perceived as political. Coach Brooks read it twice, folded it, and placed it in the trash without a word. He was still there, still coaching, but the walls around him had begun to shift. The school board meeting was held on a rainy Tuesday night in the gymnasium. Folding chairs creaked beneath parents and staff, while rows of students sat along the bleachers, their phones recording. Elijah Brooks sat near the back, flanked by a few teachers and 2 senior players who refused to wear anything but their practice jerseys. The board chair, a gray-haired man named Alan Mercer, cleared his throat into the microphone. "We are here tonight," he said, "to discuss recent events and ensure Eastwood remains a space for education, not politics." One by one, community members took the floor. A white parent spoke first. "I respect Coach Brooks, but our kids need football, not protests." A school donor followed. "We can't afford to lose sponsors. This controversy is hurting everyone." Then came a different voice. A student. Her name was Maya Reynolds, junior year, honors track. "I've never played football," she said, "but Coach Brooks is the only adult at this school who looked me in the eye and said I mattered. If that's political, then maybe the problem isn't him, it's us." The room quieted. More students followed, some stumbling, others shaking, all determined. They spoke of mentorship, kindness, fairness, how the coach made them believe in themselves. The board didn't comment, but their eyes darted, their silence strategic. By the end of the meeting, nothing had been decided. No votes, no verdict. But the message was clear. Coach Brooks wasn't just a coach anymore. He had become a symbol, and symbols are dangerous. The letter arrived on a Thursday morning, folded in a plain envelope, hand-delivered to Coach Brooks's mailbox in the athletics office. Effective immediately, Coach Elijah Brooks is placed on administrative leave pending further review. No signature, no conversation, just a quiet execution. By noon, the school knew. Players sat stunned in the locker room. Some cried. Others cursed under their breath, fists clenched, helmets untouched. Practice was canceled without explanation. In classrooms, students passed notes, shared screenshots, planned group chats. By afternoon, #BringBackCoachBrooks was trending locally on Twitter and TikTok. Outside the school, a dozen students held homemade signs. "Our coach, our voice. He taught us more than football." Inside, Principal Whitmore called it a cooling-off period, but no one believed her. At home, Elijah sat on the couch staring at the letter. His mother, who had taught in public schools for 30 years, said it softly. "They never wanted you to speak. They wanted you to win games, quietly." He didn't reply. That night, Marcus Hayes, the quiet junior who had once left him the note, posted a video. He stood outside the empty field under the floodlights, voice steady. "They can suspend Coach, but they can't suspend what he gave us. We are Eastwood, and we're not playing Friday, not without him." The video spread fast. By morning, the players had all agreed. They were boycotting the game. Friday night came, but the stadium was silent. Bleachers that once overflowed with parents, students, and rival scouts now sat eerily empty. The concession stand lights stayed off. The marching band never unpacked their instruments. Instead of cleats on turf, there was only the soft shuffle of sneakers on pavement, as the entire Eastwood football team walked in uniform toward the front gates and sat down. No chants, no music, just presence. Signs rested in their laps. Justice is not political. No coach, no game. We are more than uniforms. Reporters showed up within the hour. One by one, students were interviewed. They didn't scream. They didn't threaten. They simply explained about the man who mentored them, about a system that punished truth, about a silence that had gone on too long. Across town, the opposing team waited on the field. Eventually, they were told to pack up. No game tonight. The school board called an emergency meeting. Donors pulled out. National news picked up the story. But something else happened, too. Other schools noticed. By Monday, 2 nearby schools issued public letters in support of Coach Brooks. 3 more teams threatened walkouts. The hashtag #WeStand with Coach Brooks was trending in 5 states. Coach Brooks, still suspended, watched it all from his living room. His phone buzzed nonstop. Emails, messages, calls. But what hit hardest was a text from Marcus. "You taught us how to fight. We're just following your playbook." 2 weeks after the boycott, Coach Brooks sat in a modest chair across from a national news anchor. Behind him, a photo of the Eastwood football team lit up the studio screen. The segment was short, 8 minutes, but it changed everything. Elijah didn't speak like a man angry at the world. He spoke like a teacher who'd been silenced, and like a parent scared for his kids. "I didn't tweet to start a movement," he said. "I tweeted because another black boy died and no one seemed to care. I coach a team full of black boys. How could I not say something?" The anchor asked if he regretted it. He shook his head. "If speaking up makes me unfit to coach, then maybe the job needs to change." The interview aired on a Sunday evening. By Monday morning, it had over 4 million views. Eastwood's superintendent was flooded with calls. Major newspapers printed op-eds. Civil rights lawyers reached out. Even retired athletes posted in solidarity. At the school, teachers began pinning BLM stickers to their doors. Students wore shirts with Coach Brooks's quote, "How could I not say something?" But not everyone cheered. An anonymous parent group sent a petition demanding his permanent removal. A city councilman called the coach a destabilizing influence. The district held a vote. On Thursday, it passed by a single margin. Coach Brooks would not return to Eastwood. The stadium lights went dark that Friday night. But the spotlight on Elijah Brooks had never been brighter. Coach Brooks didn't vanish. 2 weeks after his dismissal, he stood in front of a different crowd, this time in a community center gymnasium with peeling paint and folding chairs. He wasn't coaching anymore. He was organizing. Together with a group of students, parents, and local activists, he launched Fourth Quarter, a grassroots program combining mentorship, tutoring, and leadership training for Black youth in underfunded schools. They started with 12 kids. By the end of the month, there were 60. He still wore his whistle, still ran drills, only now the drills were about life, how to speak with confidence, how to challenge injustice, how to know your rights. Meanwhile, Eastwood High's football team struggled. Without Coach Brooks, they lost 3 games in a row. Scouts stopped showing up. Morale dropped. Some parents demanded answers. Others pulled their kids out. The superintendent quietly resigned. And then came an invitation. A state senator, moved by the viral protests, asked Coach Brooks to speak at the Capitol during an education reform session. Elijah stood at the podium, voice steady. "If a tweet can cost a man his job," he said, "imagine what silence has cost generations of our students." The room went still. Laws don't change overnight, but people were listening, and Coach Brooks had found a bigger field to play on. Months passed. Spring came to Eastwood, but the football field stayed quiet. The school never hired a new permanent coach. Tryouts were postponed. Interest dwindled. Something had left the building, and everyone felt it. But the story of Elijah Brooks didn't fade. He was now a regular speaker at universities, roundtables, and youth conferences. Fourth quarter expanded to 5 schools and had a waiting list of over 200 students. One afternoon, during a mentorship session, a student handed Elijah a box. Inside was a worn, slightly faded Eastwood varsity jacket. His old one, but stitched onto the back, added by the students, were bold new words. "Coach Brooks, our first lesson in courage." He stood silently, running his fingers over the fabric. For a man who never sought titles, the gesture said more than any trophy ever could. Later that evening, a message came through from a former player, now in college. "Coach, I didn't just make the team. I made the dean's list. I never thought I could, but I remembered what you told us. Play through the noise. Thank you." Elijah saved the message. He saved all of them. A year after the boycott, Eastwood High hosted its annual homecoming game. But this time, it wasn't about football. The stadium had been renamed, not officially, but by the students. Spray-painted banners lined the fences. Brooksfield, once a coach, always a leader. The team, now reformed under new leadership that embraced Coach Brooks' principles, took the field wearing black armbands, not for protest, but for pride. In the stands, Elijah sat quietly in the back row, out of the spotlight, wearing the same Letterman jacket that had been gifted to him months before. He didn't want attention. He just wanted to see them play. And they did, with discipline, with grace, with something bigger than football in their hearts. After the game, a hard-earned win, the team huddled midfield. Without saying a word, they turned toward the stands, lifting their helmets high in silent tribute. Across town, fourth quarter had opened its own community center. Elijah still coached, just not on a field. He coached students through scholarship essays, taught kids how to speak at city council meetings, mentored single moms finishing degrees. His team had changed, but the mission hadn't. And in every young person he guided, one thing became clear. Coach Brooks hadn't been silenced. He had simply changed the arena.